Mommy, Daddy, where are you?" the little boy whispered as the icy wind whipped their faces and his sister's cries echoed in the impenetrable darkness of the forest. The millionaire widower, Mr. Almeida, watched them without remorse before turning his back and leaving, abandoning the orphan twins to the biting cold and distant howls. But what he didn't expect was that the golden eyes watching them in the gloom didn't belong to a predator, but to a guardian. And what this beast would do next would defy all the logic of a cruel world. The little boy, Leo, squeezed his sister Leah's small hand, feeling the uncontrollable tremor that ran through her body. Leah's crying, previously a low whimper, now turned into desperate sobs that tore through the night's silence, mingling with the rustling of dry leaves in the biting wind. Mr. Almeida had vanished, his arrogant silhouette swallowed by the darkness, leaving behind only the echo of his indifference. Leo felt a tightness in his chest, a pain greater than the cold numbing his fingers. He was only 6 years old, and Leah 5. The forest, which once seemed like a fairy tale place, now revealed itself as a monster of shadows and strange noises, each branch snapping like a warning, each distant howl a premonition. It was then that the golden eyes, mentioned in the gloom, moved. It wasn't a hungry predator, as Leo's childish mind imagined, but a creature of stunning beauty, an albino tiger, with fur as white as freshly fallen snow and almost imperceptible stripes, slowly emerged from behind a dense bush. Its presence was imposing, majestic, but its movements were unexpectedly gentle. Leah stopped crying, her eyes wide with fear and fascination, her mouth slightly open. Leo felt his heart pound, but something in the animal's posture prevented him from screaming. The tiger approached, not with the expected ferocity of its species, but with an almost gentle curiosity. It stopped a few steps from the twins, lowering its powerful head. Its eyes, which had previously seemed golden and menacing, now shone with a light that Leo interpreted as understanding. The tiger sniffed the air, then with a soft muzzle, delicately touched Leah's icy cheek. The girl trembled but didn't recoil. Instead, a small sound of surprise escaped her lips. The warmth of the animal's muzzle was a balm against the relentless cold. Leo, with the courage that only despair can inspire, extended a trembling hand. The tiger responded with a deep purr that vibrated on the ground beneath their feet, a sound not of threat, but of unexpected comfort. Leah, seeing her brother's boldness and feeling the strange security emanating from the beast, instinctively moved closer to the tiger. The animal, as if understanding the need for warmth and protection, slowly lay down, forming an imposing barrier against the icy wind. Its soft, warm body was a refuge. The twins, exhausted and trembling, nestled against the tiger's thick, warm fur. The smell of the forest, previously frightening, now mingled with the clean, wild scent of the animal, creating a strange sense of home. The fear didn't completely disappear, but it was replaced by a feeling of miracle. Meanwhile, many miles away in Mr. Almeida's opulent mansion, the twins' great-aunt, Donna Clara, felt a growing anguish. She was the sister of Mr. Almeida's deceased wife and, though distant, harbored deep affection for Leo and Leah. The news of the children's parents' death had been a blow, and Mr. Almeida's cold and evasive behavior regarding his grandchildren's whereabouts deeply disturbed her. He had insisted the twins were being cared for, but his words sounded hollow, devoid of any familial warmth. Donna Clara, a woman of grit and keen intuition, knew something was very wrong. Her eyes, usually serene, now reflected a dark and profound concern. She pressed her lips together, a decision forming in her mind. No one would harm her great-niece and great-nephew as long as she drew breath. She would pick up the phone, determined to find answers, no matter the cost. Justice for Leo and Leah would begin there, in the quiet of her living room, with a call to a private detective. Donna Clara's hand trembled slightly as she dialed the numbers, but her voice, when speaking to the private detective, Mr. Ricardo, was firm and laden with an urgency that came from the depths of her soul. "My great-niece and great-nephew, Mr. Ricardo, Leo and Leah, they've disappeared, and Mr. Almeida, he's not trustworthy. I feel it in my heart." She described the children, the vivacity of Leo's eyes, Leah's sweet smile, every detail painted with the pain of absence and the strength of her intuition. Mr. Ricardo, a middle-aged man with a keen eye and a reputation for integrity, listened attentively, his pen scratching paper as he absorbed every word. He promised to start the investigation immediately, beginning with Mr. Almeida's imposing mansion, a place that for Donna Clara had always exuded a coldness that contrasted with the warm memory of her sister. The next morning, Mr. Ricardo was already in action. The marble facade of Mr. Almeida's mansion and its wrought-iron gates seemed to mock under the pale sun. When confronted, the millionaire widower appeared irritated, his previously cold eyes now sparking with contained fury. "My grandchildren are fine, Detective. There's no need for your interference. They are in a safe place, being educated away from prying eyes." His voice was sharp, but the detective noticed the absence of details, the lack of any genuine affection. The refusal to provide concrete information only fueled Donna Clara's suspicions, now confirmed by Mr. Ricardo's keen observation. He knew the truth was hidden behind that facade of wealth and arrogance, and that justice for those children, wherever they were, would be his mission. Far from there, in the vastness of the forest, night slowly gave way to dawn, and the first pale rays of sun filtered through the treetops, painting the ground with patches of light and shadow. Leo and Leah woke nestled against the warm body of the albino tiger. The fear of the previous night had diminished, replaced by a silent admiration for the majestic creature. Leah, with her large, curious eyes, touched the tiger's soft fur, a shy smile appearing on her lips. The tiger, whom Leo had mentally named Nevado, Snowy, responded with a soft, almost imperceptible purr, like a dormant engine ensuring their safety. Hunger, however, began to gnaw at the children's stomachs, and the reality of their situation, though softened by the guardian's presence, reasserted itself with the light of day. Nevado, as if sensing the children's distress, rose with fluid grace. He looked at the twins, then at the dense forest, as if pondering the next step. Leo and Leah followed him with their eyes, a childlike trust growing in their hearts. The tiger began to walk, leading them along a narrow path, its steps silent on the damp foliage. They didn't know where they were going, but Nevado's constant presence was a comfort, a silent promise of protection. The forest, which had once been a place of terror, now seemed like a mysterious labyrinth, but with an unexpected guide. Damp leaves brushed against their legs, the smell of earth and moss filled the air. With each step, the connection between the children and the tiger deepened, an invisible bond woven by vulnerability and unexpected protection. The beast's altruism was a reminder that compassion could emerge in the most improbable places, defying the cruelty that had abandoned them. Meanwhile, Donna Clara didn't give up. Her calls to Mr. Ricardo were daily, her voice laden with a mix of hope and despair. "Any news, Detective? I can't sleep. I see their faces in my dreams and they seem so distant." Mr. Ricardo, in turn, was increasingly convinced that Mr. Almeida was hiding something terrible. He had checked bank accounts, travel records, and even spoken with mansion staff, who, though intimidated, let slip small inconsistencies. Mr. Almeida's story about the twins being in an exclusive boarding school didn't hold up, and signs of a deception were accumulating. With each closed door, each lie exposed, the detective's determination grew. He knew he was close, that the truth, however dark, would come to light. The search for Leo and Leah was no longer just a job. It was a matter of justice, of morality, of rescuing innocence. He felt the pressure, but also the strength of his cause. Donna Clara's eyes, full of pleading, were his driving force. Mr. Ricardo felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders, but the image of Donna Clara's pleading eyes was, indeed, his driving force. He had exhausted formal channels, and Mr. Almeida's intransigence only reinforced the certainty that something terrible had happened. He turned to the smaller details, the loose ends that haste and arrogance often leave behind. He revisited the mansion area, spoke with gardeners and delivery drivers, searching for any fragment of information. It was a cleaning lady, a humble woman of few words who, with a look of fear and pity, mentioned having seen Mr. Almeida's car leave on the night of the disappearance, not towards the city, but onto the road leading to the old forest reserve, a place known for its density and isolation. The information was vague, but it lit an alarm in the detective's mind. Meanwhile, in the green vastness, Leo and Leah followed Nevado. Hunger gnawed, but fear lessened with each step beside the majestic tiger. Leah, with a fragile smile, tried to imitate the animal's graceful movements, stumbling over exposed roots, but always getting up with new determination. Leo, more pragmatic, observed Nevado with a mix of reverence and curiosity, noticing how the tiger seemed to sniff the air, its muscles tense, as if always on alert. They had found a small stream, and the fresh water somewhat relieved their thirst, but their empty stomachs continued to remind them of their vulnerability. Nevado, sensing the children's exhaustion, lay down under a leafy tree, inviting them with a look to rest beside him, offering his warm body as a refuge. The mention of the forest reserve echoed in Mr. Ricardo's mind. It was a vast and inhospitable place, but the cleaning lady's description was too precise to ignore. He consulted old maps, tracing the route Mr. Almeida might have taken. That man was calculating, and the choice of such a remote location to hide the children was not random. The image of Leo and Leah, so small and fragile, lost in that immensity, tugged at the detective's heart. He decided he couldn't wait for warrants or bureaucracy. Donna Clara's intuition, now reinforced by a concrete clue, demanded immediate action. He packed a backpack with basic supplies, a powerful flashlight, and his communication equipment. In the heart of the forest, Leo and Leah dozed, nestled against Nevado. The tiger's warmth was a balm, and its soft purr a lullaby. Suddenly, Nevado raised his head, his ears twitching, catching a distant sound the children couldn't hear. His golden eyes, previously calm, now shone with a protective intensity. He slowly rose, positioning himself between the twins and the direction from which the noise came. It wasn't a threatening sound of nature, but something more subtle, more human. A twig snapping, a rustle of leaves, indicating an approaching presence, albeit hesitant. Mr. Ricardo drove his car along the dirt road, the sun already beginning to set on the horizon, painting the sky with shades of orange and purple. Each curve, each passing tree, increased his anxiety and hope. He felt he was on the right track, that the truth was just ahead, hidden among the shadows of the forest. The car rattled, kicking up dust as the detective delved deeper into the wild landscape. He didn't know what he would find, but Donna Clara's determination and the twins' innocence were a beacon in his search. Justice, he knew, was not just a word, but an action, and he was ready to act, whatever the cost, to bring Leo and Leah home. Mr. Ricardo parked the car at the edge of the dirt road, where the density of the woods became impenetrable. The last ray of sun tinged the sky a melancholic purple, and darkness began to swallow the trees, transforming them into menacing silhouettes. He grabbed his powerful flashlight and backpack with supplies, feeling the cold forest air on his face. Each step on the damp foliage was an amplified sound in the settling silence. Donna Clara's intuition was a guide, and the image of Leo and Leah's innocent faces propelled him. He knew he was entering unknown territory, but the hope of finding them was stronger than any apprehension. Meanwhile, in the heart of the forest, Nevada was on high alert. The distant sound of the detective's car had been a warning, and now the man's cautious footsteps echoed in his keen ears. He rose, majestic and silent, positioning himself in front of Leo and Leah, who were still dozing, embraced by his fur. His golden eyes swept the growing darkness, searching for the source of the disturbance. There was no aggression in his posture, but rather an unwavering determination to protect the little ones nestled under his guard. Leo, sensing the change in the tiger's tension, slowly opened his eyes. Mr. Ricardo's flashlight beam, still faint and distant, danced among the trees, announcing a presence. Mr. Ricardo advanced with difficulty, dodging branches and roots, his flashlight beam cutting through the gloom. He called the children's names softly, almost a whisper so as not to startle them should they be nearby. His heart pounded in his chest, a mix of anxiety and adrenaline. Suddenly, a golden gleam in the dense darkness caught his attention. He stopped, his breath held. It wasn't the gleam of human eyes, but something wilder, more intense. With redoubled caution he approached, and what he saw made him freeze in place, defying all his understanding. There, under the canopy of an ancient tree, were Leo and Leah. But they weren't alone. Nestled between them, with its white fur resplendent under the flashlight's beam, was the majestic albino tiger. The animal raised its head, its eyes fixed on the detective without a hint of fear, only serene and protective vigilance. Leo and Leah, awakened by the flashlight's glow and the man's presence, looked at Mr. Ricardo with a mix of curiosity and apprehension. Still clinging to Nevado's warm body, the beast's warmth being their only comfort, the scene was surreal, defying everything the detective knew about nature and logic. Mr. Ricardo felt a lump in his throat, a mix of relief and growing indignation. He expected to find frightened children, perhaps injured, but never this. The image of the little ones, safe and sound, snuggled up to a wild beast, was a miracle that disproved Mr. Almeida's cruelty. That tiger, a feared predator, had become the improbable guardian of innocence. He lowered the flashlight, raising his hands in a gesture of peace, trying not to scare the animal or the children. His voice failed him, but he managed to whisper, emotion catching in his throat. "Leo, Leah, are you all right?" The relief he felt was overwhelming, mixed with a cold anger against Mr. Almeida's cruelty. How could anyone abandon such fragile beings to such an uncertain fate? The twins didn't respond immediately, but Leah clutched Nevado's fur even tighter, seeking comfort. Leo, with the courage developed in those days, looked at the detective and then at the tiger, as if asking for permission. Nevado, in turn, merely observed, his golden eyes assessing the newcomer. The forest's silence was broken by the rustling of leaves and the detective's pounding heart. Mr. Ricardo knew he had found the truth, shocking and inspiring, a testament to altruism in nature. He had to bring them home, and justice for Mr. Almeida would be inevitable. Mr. Ricardo knew the moment was delicate. The sight of the twins, so small and vulnerable, nestled beside the majestic albino tiger, was a picture of pure innocence and improbable protection. He slowly knelt, keeping his hands visible, a gesture of non-threat. His eyes turned to Leo and Leah, trying to convey safety to them. "I am Mr. Ricardo," he said, his voice soft and calm. "Donna Clara sent me. She's very worried about you." Leah, still clinging to Nevado, hid her face in the tiger's soft fur. Leo, however, raised his head, his eyes large and curious. He looked at the detective, then at Nevado, seeking approval. The tiger didn't move. Its golden eyes followed Mr. Ricardo's every movement, a living barrier between the outside world and its protected ones. It was a delicate dance of trust and instinct. The detective felt a shiver of reverence for the animal's loyalty. "Donna Clara is your grandma's sister, remember?" Mr. Ricardo continued, evoking a familiar memory. He took a cereal bar and a bottle of water from his backpack, placing them on the ground at a respectful distance. "You must be hungry and thirsty. I brought these for you." He waited patiently, observing the silent interaction. Hunger was a powerful motivator. Leah, smelling the food, raised her head. Her eyes shone with desire and hesitation. Leo, with a nod to Nevado, crawled out of the tiger's embrace. He took the cereal bar and the bottle, returning to the beast, his safe haven. Leah followed him, and the two began to eat and drink with a voracity that broke the detective's heart. Nevado watched, eyes vigilant, but the tension in his body seemed to lessen. The scene was a poignant reminder of innocence and resilience. Mr. Ricardo felt a warmth in his chest. The first step had been taken. He wouldn't try to get closer for now. Trust needed to be built under the watchful supervision of the feline guardian. He knew that getting the children out of the forest would be complex, but the image of them eating under the tiger's protection was a victory. He needed help, supplies, and a plan to deal with Nevado. The forest was darkening, and the night would bring new challenges. He picked up his radio communicator, keeping his voice low. "I need reinforcements, a rescue team, and a veterinarian with tranquilizers. I found the children, but there's an unexpected situation." He described the scene, his voice choked with emotion and disbelief. On the other end of the line, the surprise was palpable. While waiting for help, Mr. Ricardo lit a small campfire, mostly to ward off the cold and darkness. The warmth and flickering light created a small oasis. Nevado, surprisingly, didn't move away. He seemed to accept the campfire, keeping a safe distance, close enough to protect the twins. Leo and Leah, with fuller stomachs, watched the flames dance, weariness overcoming fear. The detective's presence, though strange, wasn't hostile. They were safe under the tiger's vigilance and the man's protection. The night promised to be long, but hope had found its way in the darkness. Justice, he knew, would begin with the safety of these children. The night deepened, enveloping the forest in a blanket of stars and shadows. Mr. Ricardo, sitting near the softly crackling campfire, watched Leo and Leah. They were asleep again, nestled against Nevado's warm and imposing body, whose golden eyes remained open, vigilant. The detective felt a mix of exhaustion and profound reverence. That scene, so improbable and beautiful, was a testament to the miracle, to the compassion that could blossom in the wildest hearts, and to the resilience of childlike innocence. He thought of Donna Clara, of her anguish, and knew that the news he would bring would be an immense relief, but also a shock. The radio communicator in his hand seemed a fragile link to the civilized world. The rescue team, alerted to the unexpected situation, was on its way. He had been as detailed as possible, describing the albino tiger as a guardian, not a threat, but he knew that disbelief would be the first reaction. How would they convince the authorities that a predator had become a guardian angel? And more importantly, how would they convince the children to separate from their protector? Leo and Leah, even in their sleep, seemed to seek the tiger's comfort. Leah, with a small sigh, moved her hand to touch Nevado's soft fur, a gesture of absolute trust. Leo, in turn, had his face turned towards the animal, as if dreaming of adventures alongside his majestic friend. For them, Nevado was not a beast, but a refuge, a warmth amidst the cold of abandonment. Hours dragged on, and the distant sound of engines and voices began to break the forest's silence. Nevado raised his head, his ears twitching, catching the noises even before Mr. Ricardo clearly perceived them. The tiger let out a low growl, almost a grunt, and positioned himself, a living barrier between the twins and the newcomers. His eyes shone with an intensity that was not of anger, but of unwavering determination. The light of several flashlights burst into the clearing, and a group of men, some uniformed, others with medical and veterinary equipment, stopped abruptly. The shock on their faces was palpable. A police officer, hand on his holster, stammered, "Mr. Ricardo, what? What is this?" Mr. Ricardo slowly stood up, hands raised in a sign of calm. "It's him, the tiger I mentioned, and the children are with him." He pointed to Leo and Leah, who were now waking up, startled by the commotion. Leah huddled even closer to Nevado, and Leo clutched the tiger's fur, his large eyes fixed on the strangers. The veterinarian, an experienced man, approached cautiously but stopped upon seeing Nevado's protective posture. "I've never seen anything like it," he murmured, his voice full of astonishment. "He's protecting them." The turning point revealed itself there, in the unexpected difficulty of rescuing the children. It wasn't the forest or hunger that was the biggest obstacle now, but the invisible and powerful bond uniting the twins to the tiger. When one of the paramedics tried to approach, Nevado let out a low growl, a clear warning that made everyone retreat. Leo and Leah, in turn, began to cry, not from fear of the tiger but from panic at the imminent separation. They clung to Nevado, their small bodies trembling. The scene was painful and revealed the depth of the connection that Mr. Almeida, in his cruelty, could never have foreseen. That tiger was the only family they had known in those days of abandonment, and leaving him felt like a betrayal. Mr. Ricardo felt a tightness in his chest. Justice for Mr. Almeida would be one thing, but healing the hearts of these children would be another, far more complex. Mr. Ricardo felt a tightness in his chest. Justice for Mr. Almeida would be one thing, but healing the hearts of these children would be another, far more complex. He watched the paramedics and police officers, all paralyzed by the scene, unsure how to act in front of an albino tiger that was clearly not a common threat, but a guardian. Leo and Leah's cries, as they clung to Nevado as if he were their last safe harbor, echoed in the clearing, breaking everyone's hearts. "We can't force them," said the veterinarian, Dr. Elias, with a thoughtful voice, his eyes fixed on the tiger and the children. "The stress could be devastating for them. And the tiger, well, he's just protecting. Any sudden movement could startle him and make him unpredictable." Mr. Ricardo nodded, his brow furrowed in concern. He knelt again, trying to communicate with the little ones. Leah, we've come to take you to a safe place. Donna Clara is waiting for you. She loves you very much." Leah, her face red and swollen from crying, shook her head negatively, hiding even deeper in Nevado's soft fur. Leo, with tear-filled eyes, pointed to the tiger. "He's our friend. He protected us from the cold and the dark." His voice was a fragile whisper, but laden with unwavering conviction. Nevado, in turn, let out a low growl, almost imperceptible, but which served as a reminder of his imposing presence. His golden eyes, previously serene, now reflected palpable concern, as if he understood the children's anguish and the threat of separation. He snuggled closer to the twins, his massive body forming a protective barrier. The detective realized that the approach had to be different. It wasn't a matter of rescuing victims from a predator, but of separating children from their savior. The connection was deep, forged in loneliness and fear. He turned to the team. "We need time. They need to trust us, and we need the tiger to trust us too." Dr. Elias, the veterinarian, suggested, "We can set up a temporary camp here. Bring more supplies, blankets, maybe something the tiger can eat. Gradually, we'll try to create a safe environment for everyone without him feeling threatened." The idea, though risky and unusual, seemed the only way out. One of the police officers, an older man with a kind look, offered to help set up the tents. "These children have been through a lot. They deserve all the care in the world." Mr. Ricardo felt a glimmer of hope. The team's compassion, even in the face of the unusual, was a balm. He knew the night would be long and full of challenges, but the image of Leo and Leah, still clinging to Nevado, propelled him. The task of uncovering Mr. Almeida's cruelty would be arduous, but that of rebuilding these children's trust and safety seemed even more vital. The forest, which had been the scene of cruel abandonment, now became the setting for a delicate rescue, where patience and understanding would be the most powerful tools. He observed the tiger, who seemed to understand the team's peaceful intention, its eyes still vigilant, but with slightly less tension. The bridge between the wild and civilized worlds was beginning to be built, brick by brick, with the hope of a kinder future for Leo and Leah. The night stretched on, a testament to human and animal resilience. The team, led by Dr. Elias and the older police officer, set up improvised tents at a respectful distance from Nevado and the twins. The smell of hot coffee and the yellow light of portable lanterns created an atmosphere of strange normalcy amidst the wild forest. Mr. Ricardo, exhausted but with a hopeful heart, spoke in a low voice with Dr. Elias. "He hasn't moved an inch," the detective said, pointing to Nevado, who was still firmly positioned between the team and the sleeping children. "It's as if he knows we're here to help, but doesn't fully trust our approach." Dr. Elias, a man with graying hair and tired but kind eyes, nodded. "It's a primary protective instinct. He's become the maternal figure, the guardian. For the children, he is safety. Separating the three abruptly would be an even greater trauma for their little souls." He explained that the strategy would be patience. They offered more food and water, placing them on the ground, and watched Nevado sniff before allowing Leo and Leah to take them. The little ones, though still scared, began to accept the team's presence, especially when they realized no one was trying to get too close or threaten Nevado. Leo, in a moment of childlike curiosity, crawled a little out of the tiger's embrace and observed the movement of the tents. Leah, more timid, merely peeked through the soft white fur, her eyes wide with curiosity. Mr. Ricardo, noticing the opening, smiled gently. "Hello, Leo. Is it warmer now?" The boy nodded without speaking, but his eyes showed a hint of recognition. It was a small step forward, a fragile link being forged. Dawn brought an even more intense cold, but the campfire and extra blankets, brought by the team, helped keep everyone warm. Nevado, in a gesture that surprised everyone, allowed one of the paramedics to place a blanket over Leo and Leah without even a growl, just a watchful observation from his golden eyes. It was a sign that trust, though slow, was growing between them. The detective knew that the news of the rescue, with all its unusual details, would soon spread. The image of Mr. Almeida, the cruel millionaire, would be unmasked, and justice, finally, would begin to move. But for him, at that moment, the priority was the twins' well-being. In the morning, with the first rays of sun filtering through the trees, a new phase of the plan unfolded. Dr. Elias proposed the construction of a temporary enclosure, large enough for Nevado and the children, so they could be transported together, minimizing the stress of separation. The idea was audacious, but it seemed the only way to ensure the emotional safety of the little ones, who had already suffered so much. The team, now more familiar with the dynamic between the tiger and the twins, agreed to the idea, moved by a compassion that surpassed protocol and logic. This was not a common rescue, but a mission to rebuild trust and hope. Mr. Ricardo observed Leo and Leah, who were now gently playing with fallen leaves, always close to Nevado. The tiger, in turn, watched them with an almost human tenderness, occasionally nuzzling their small heads. That bond, forged in adversity, was unbreakable. The detective felt a deep emotion. It wasn't just a rescue, but a witness to a pure connection, a reminder that kindness can emerge in the most unexpected places. The bridge between the wild and civilized worlds was being built, not with fear, but with respect and love, paving the way for a kinder future for Leo and Leah, and solidifying the legend of their guardian. The morning sun, finally victorious over the night's darkness, filtered in golden rays through the treetops, painting the clearing with a soft and promising light. The smell of damp earth and dry leaves mingled with the aroma of coffee and the smoke from the campfire, which now burned weaker. The rescue team, with renewed spirits, began working on the construction of the temporary enclosure. Dr. Elias, hammer in hand, supervised the assembly of the metal grids, which would be firmly anchored to the ground. Mr. Ricardo watched, his heart tight with a mix of hope and apprehension. He saw Leo and Leah sitting near Nevado, their curious eyes following every movement of the men. The tiger, in turn, maintained its majestic posture, its golden eyes fixed on the workers, a silent vigilance that was not aggressive but unwavering. He seemed to understand the intention behind those grids, accepting them as part of a plan to keep them together. "The intelligence of this animal is impressive," murmured the older police officer, Mr. Carlos, to Mr. Ricardo as he tightened a screw. "He knows we don't want to hurt them. It's as if he's cooperating in his own way." Dr. Elias approached, wiping sweat from his brow. "He's a born guardian. The connection he formed with the children is something science still struggles to comprehend. It's not just instinct. It's loyalty. It's love." Leo, seeing a loose piece of wood, crawled to it and began gently tapping it on the ground, imitating the sound of hammers. Leah, with a shy smile, picked up some leaves and threw them into the air, watching them fall like snowflakes. They were playing, a sign that the tension of the previous night was diminishing, replaced by a cautious acceptance of the new reality. Nevado, in response, nuzzled Leo's head, a gesture of affection that made the boy giggle softly. Mr. Ricardo felt a wave of emotion. Those little ones, abandoned and vulnerable, had found solace and protection in the most improbable creature, that albino tiger, which should have been a feared predator, had become the personification of compassion and altruism. The image of Mr. Almeida, in his luxury and coldness, contrasted brutally with the purity of that scene. The construction of the enclosure progressed. The grids, though temporary, were robust, designed to ensure everyone's safety during transport. The idea was to create a space where Nevado and the children could travel together, minimizing the trauma of separation. It was a complex solution, requiring careful logistics, but the team was united by a greater purpose: to protect the innocence of Leo and Leah. "We'll have to adapt it to a special truck," explained Dr. Elias. "It will be a long and delicate journey. We need to ensure the environment is as calm as possible for them." Mr. Ricardo nodded, thinking about the next steps. The news of the rescue, and especially the tiger's presence, must have already reached Donna Clara's ears, and certainly Mr. Almeida's. The truth would be revealed, and justice, finally, would be served. But above all, it was necessary to ensure that Leo and Leah and their majestic guardian arrived safely at a new home, where love and care would replace abandonment and coldness. The bridge between the wild and civilized worlds was almost complete, built with the strength of compassion and the promise of a kinder future. The temporary enclosure, now complete, stood imposingly in the clearing. The robust grids, precisely fixed and carefully tested, formed a space that, though metal, seemed surprisingly welcoming under the filtered morning sunlight. Dr. Elias inspected each joint, his expression serious, but with a gleam of satisfaction. Mr. Ricardo watched the scene, his heart pounding with a mix of relief and anxiety for what would come next. It was the moment of truth. How would the twins and Nevado react to the transition to the special truck that was already waiting on the road? a few kilometers away, prepared for the long journey. Leo and Leah, who moments before had been gently playing with fallen leaves, now looked at the enclosure with a childlike curiosity mixed with an instinctive apprehension. Their faces reflected uncertainty. Nevado, sensing the change in atmosphere, let out a low growl, a deep murmur, not of threat. It was a sound of alert, of questioning, that vibrated in the air. He rose, majestic and imposing, and slowly walked to the entrance of the enclosure, sniffing the cold metal with his muzzle, as if trying to decipher the structure's intention. "Let's take it easy, team," whispered Dr. Elias, his voice deep and calm. "No rush. They need to feel safe every step of the way. Trust is fragile." He approached the enclosure, speaking in a soft, reassuring tone, as if talking to a long-time friend, explaining the situation. "It's for you, Nevado. So you can go together with Leo and Leah to a place where you'll all be protected, where you won't feel cold or hunger anymore." Mr. Ricardo knelt near the twins, extending a hand in an inviting gesture. "Leo, Leah, it's time to go to a warmer place, a real home. Donna Clara is waiting for you, full of love, and Nevado will go with you, always by your side." Leah, with wide, moist eyes, looked at the detective, then at the tiger, and finally at the enclosure, her small mouth trembling. A tear rolled down her rosy cheek. Leo, braver but visibly apprehensive, clutched Nevado's fur even tighter. "Is he really coming? He won't be alone?" he asked, his voice choked with emotion. "Yes, he's coming, always. He's part of the family now," Mr. Ricardo assured, trying to convey all the safety and affection he could, his eyes moist from the scene. The rescue team, with Mr. Carlos leading, began to open the enclosure door with almost reverent slowness. Nevado hesitated for an instant, his golden eyes sweeping the clearing, assessing each face, each movement, as if pondering the trust he had placed in those humans. With a slow, calculated, and surprisingly graceful movement for his size, he entered the enclosure. His presence filled the space, but he didn't seem confined. On the contrary, he turned, inviting the twins with a gentle nuzzle of his muzzle against their legs. Leo, with a small nudge from Nevado and an encouraging nod from Mr. Ricardo, crawled inside, his eyes fixed on the tiger. Leah followed him, still whimpering softly, but finding immediate comfort as she nestled once more against the tiger's warm, soft body, feeling the familiar security of his fur. The door was carefully closed, and the sound of the latch echoed softly in the clearing, sealing the fate of that improbable trio. The entire team breathed a collective sigh of relief and triumph. The first and most difficult step had been taken. Now the challenge was to transport the enclosure with the tiger and the children to the truck. It was a delicate operation, requiring strength, precision, and above all, infinite patience, but everyone was determined to ensure the safety and well-being of the little ones and their guardian. Mr. Ricardo observed the twins, who now seemed calmer and safer inside the enclosure, protected by their majestic guardian. That was the beginning of a new journey, a journey towards healing, towards rebuilding their lives, and towards the justice that Mr. Almeida would face. But at that moment, the most important thing was that Leo and Leah were on their way to a home, to a family that loved them. The image of the tiger, serene within its new temporary home, with the children nestled against him, was a powerful and inspiring reminder that love and compassion could flourish in the most unexpected places, transforming cruelty into a testament of hope and overcoming. The forest, witness to so much suffering, now saw the promise of a new beginning, a future where innocence would be protected and valued. The operation to transport the enclosure was a choreography of precision and care, a ballet of winches and cables. Strong men, under the watchful guidance of Dr. Elias and Mr. Carlos, lifted the metal structure, moving it with almost reverent slowness towards the special truck that awaited on the wider trail. Inside the enclosure, Nevado observed every movement, his golden eyes fixed, but without any sign of aggression. Leo and Leah, nestled against his fur, seemed to feel the tension in the air, but the tiger's presence was a balm, an anchor of security. Leah, with a small thumb in her mouth, watched the outside world with a mix of childlike fear and fascination. Leo, more alert, touched Nevado's soft paw, as if seeking silent confirmation that everything would be all right. A gesture of trust that warmed the hearts of all who witnessed the scene. Mr. Ricardo, beside Dr. Elias, felt his heart in his throat, pounding with a mix of apprehension and hope. Every inch the enclosure advanced was a crucial step towards justice and the children's safety. "Almost there," murmured the veterinarian, sweat trickling down his brow, but a smile of relief beginning to form on his tired face. When the enclosure was finally fitted and securely fastened to the truck's platform, a collective sigh of relief echoed through the team. The truck compartment door was carefully closed, and the vehicle, with its precious and unusual cargo, began to move slowly out of the forest. The journey was long and full of silent expectations. The truck, escorted by police vehicles, wound its way along secondary roads, and news of the rescue was already beginning to leak to the outside world. When they finally emerged from the dense woods into a more urbanized area, what awaited them was a scene no one had fully anticipated. A crowd of reporters, photographers, and curious onlookers gathered, their cameras flashing incessantly like fireflies on a dark night, microphones extended, voices clamoring for information. The image of the special truck, with its police seal and the story of a savior tiger, had spread like wildfire. The climax was there in the public exposure of the truth. Mr. Almeida, in his luxurious mansion, was probably already hearing the first rumors through his assistants, but nothing would prepare him for the avalanche of revelations that would follow. The story of the abandoned twins, rescued by a majestic albino tiger, was too incredible to ignore, touching the hearts and indignation of millions. Journalists with their phones and cameras were already broadcasting live the first images of the truck, speculating about the mysterious cargo and the truth behind that extraordinary rescue. Donna Clara, at her home, watched the news with a pounding heart, a mix of relief and dread. When the image of the truck appeared on screen, and a reporter with a choked voice mentioned "children and a wild animal found," she knew, with a certainty that chilled her soul. Her hands trembled as she called Mr. Ricardo, her voice thick with emotion and a growing anger against her brother-in-law. The detective, already amidst the chaos, confirmed, "They are safe, Donna Clara, and the whole world will know what Mr. Almeida did." The image of Leo and Leah, nestled against Nevado, began to circulate through all media outlets, going viral in a matter of minutes. The children's innocence and the tiger's protective majesty contrasted brutally with the grandfather's coldness and cruelty. Society, shocked and indignant, demanded answers and justice. The police and the public prosecutor's office were already mobilizing urgently, based on the evidence meticulously collected by Mr. Ricardo. Mr. Almeida's name, once synonymous with power and wealth, would now be associated with monstrosity and inhumanity. It was the beginning of his downfall, a dramatic climax that exposed the coldness of a man and the unexpected kindness of nature, a testament to the compassion that resides even in the wildest souls. The legend of the albino tiger, the true guardian of innocence, echoed everywhere, and with it, the promise of justice and a new beginning, full of love and hope for Leo and Leah. The avalanche of revelations that followed the truck's appearance was relentless. The images of Leo and Leah nestled against Nevado circulated the world in a matter of hours, touching hearts and sparking an unprecedented wave of indignation. Mr. Almeida's coldness was brutally exposed, contrasting with the purity of the children's innocence and the tiger's protective majesty. Society, shocked, demanded justice, and it was not long in coming. That same night, as the truck headed to a safe and discreet location, away from the spotlight, Mr. Almeida was confronted. There was no violence, only the cutting coldness of the law and public shame. Mr. Ricardo, with a firm voice, presented irrefutable evidence, security footage, testimonies, and the most powerful of all, the living existence of the twins and their improbable guardian. The millionaire, accustomed to manipulating and controlling, watched his empire crumble. His lawyers, once so powerful, could not stem the torrent of accusations and popular condemnation. His fortune, built on ambition and now stained by cruelty, was frozen, and his reputation, once impeccable, lay in tatters. He would be stripped of everything, facing a process that would lead him to complete ruin, not for an act of physical violence, but for the monstrosity of his soul. Meanwhile, Donna Clara waited anxiously. When Mr. Ricardo called again, confirming that the twins and Nevado were on their way to her house, a wave of relief and gratitude washed over her. She had prepared everything: cozy rooms filled with toys and new clothes, and most challenging, a safe and spacious area in her vast garden for Nevado. Dr. Elias, who accompanied the tiger and the children, had worked tirelessly with a team of specialists to create a sanctuary that mimicked the tiger's natural environment, but with all the necessary safety for coexistence with the little ones. The truck's arrival at Donna Clara's property was a moment of pure emotion. The compartment door opened, and there they were, Leo and Leah, their eyes still a little scared, but with a spark of hope, and Nevado, majestic and vigilant, beside them. Donna Clara ran to embrace them, tears streaming down her face. "My darlings, my little ones, you are safe now. You are home." She held them close, feeling the warmth of their bodies and the smell of the forest that still clung to them. Nevado, observing the scene with his golden eyes, allowed Donna Clara to approach the children. He seemed to understand that this woman was an ally, part of the new family. With a soft, almost inaudible growl, he moved back slightly, making space for the reunion, but always maintaining a protective distance. The days that followed were filled with adaptation and healing. Leo and Leah, little by little, began to blossom. Childlike laughter, once muffled by fear, echoed through the house's corridors. They explored every corner, every toy, always returning to the garden where Nevado awaited them. The tiger, in turn, accepted his new home with impressive dignity. He moved freely through the sanctuary, watching the twins play, and occasionally allowed them to approach for a gentle touch of his fur. The connection between them had not diminished. On the contrary, it had strengthened, becoming a living symbol of resilience and love. Mr. Ricardo observed the scene with a lump in his throat. Justice had been served. Mr. Almeida would face the consequences of his actions, but the true victory was there, in those small smiles, in the security the twins felt, and in Nevado's peaceful presence. The legend of the albino tiger, the true guardian of innocence, echoed not only in the news, but in the hearts of all who witnessed that story. It was a powerful reminder that even in the deepest darkness, compassion and love could emerge in the most unexpected places, transforming pain into hope and cruelty into a testament to the unbreakable strength of the human spirit. Leo and Leah, finally, were home, surrounded by a love that would heal all wounds. Months unfolded into a tapestry of sunny days and tranquil nights on Donna Clara's property. The house, once filled with quiet, now resonated with childlike laughter and the buzz of new discoveries. Leo and Leah, like small plants finally finding light and water, blossomed each day. Their eyes, which once carried the weight of abandonment, now shone with insatiable curiosity and contagious joy. Donna Clara, with her generous heart, dedicated herself entirely to her deceased sister's grandchildren. She taught them about the garden flowers, read stories before bed, and prepared their favorite dishes, tenderly observing each new smile, each spontaneous hug. The pain of the past, though a scar, was being covered by layers of love and security. In the vast sanctuary, Nevado remained the silent guardian, the majestic presence that anchored the twins' peace. They spent hours at the edge of the enclosure, talking to the tiger, showing him their drawings, or simply feeling the warmth of his presence. Nevado, with his instinctive wisdom, responded with soft growls, a blink of his golden eyes, or a gentle nuzzle of his muzzle, communicating unwavering loyalty. Dr. Elias and his team visited regularly, not only to monitor the tiger's health, but to witness the extraordinary connection that defied explanation. "It's living proof that love knows no barriers," the doctor commented, his eyes moist. As the twins' lives rebuilt, justice ran its course for Mr. Almeida. Stripped of fortune and reputation, he faced public and legal scrutiny. Society, which had once idolized him, now viewed him with contempt. His name, once synonymous with power, became a grim reminder of human cruelty. He lived the rest of his days in seclusion, without the luxury or respect he so cherished, a social and emotional punishment that for many was more severe than any prison. His ambition and bitterness had led him to ruin, and loneliness was his only companion. The story of Leo, Leah, and Nevado transcended borders, becoming an inspiring legend. Books were written, documentaries produced, and the image of the albino tiger, the true guardian angel, became a global symbol of altruism and overcoming adversity. People of all ages and places were touched by the narrative of how compassion could emerge in the wildest and most unexpected places, transforming darkness into light. Mr. Ricardo, the detective who uncovered the truth, visited Donna Clara and the twins frequently. He watched Leo and Leah playing in the garden under Nevado's watchful eye and felt deep satisfaction. His mission had gone beyond a case. He helped rewrite the destiny of two children and expose a powerful truth. In one of these encounters, Donna Clara, holding Leah's hand, said to the detective, her voice choked with gratitude, "You gave us a new beginning, Mr. Ricardo. You gave us hope." Leo, now older and more confident, ran to Nevado, who was lying under the shade of a tree, and hugged his soft neck. The tiger responded with a deep purr, a sound that vibrated with affection and protection. Leah joined them, nestling into the tiger's fur, a serene smile on her face. There in that garden, under the gentle sun, the improbable family was complete. The legend of the albino tiger was not just a story of survival, but an eternal testament to the power of love, the resilience of the human spirit, and the belief that even after the coldest of nights, dawn would always bring with it the promise of a kinder future full of compassion. Love, after all, heals and transforms. Love, after all, heals and transforms. And so it was for Leo and Leah, whose lives, once marked by the darkness of abandonment, blossomed under the generous sun of affection. Years passed since that day in the forest, weaving a new tapestry of memories where fear gave way to security and loneliness to fullness. The twins, now 7 years old, were vibrant children, full of life and curiosity. Their eyes, once frightened, shone with the innocence and joy that had been stolen from them for a time. Donna Clara, with her infinite patience and her heart overflowing with affection, was the architect of this new reality. She taught them to trust, to dream, and to love without reservation, transforming the large house into a true home where every corner held a story of laughter and discoveries. Leo, with his contagious energy, loved to explore the vast garden, imagining himself a brave adventurer. Leah, more introspective and sensitive, spent hours drawing, filling notebooks with vibrant colors that told her own versions of the forest and its inhabitants. But in their games and creations, there was a constant presence, an unbreakable bond that linked them to the past and anchored them in the present. Nevado, the majestic albino tiger, now fully adapted to his carefully designed sanctuary, was more than a guardian. He was a family member, a silent confidant, a loyal friend whose golden eyes reflected ancestral wisdom and unconditional love. The twins' routine included daily visits to the sanctuary. They would sit at the edge of the enclosure, talking to Nevado about their school days, their small victories, and their most secret dreams. The tiger responded with soft growls, a blink of his eyes or a slow flick of his tail, a communication that transcended words and further strengthened the bond between them. Dr. Elias, who continued to monitor Nevado and marvel at the uniqueness of that relationship, observed that the tiger seemed more serene and happy than ever, a living testament to the power of connection and care. Mr. Ricardo, the detective who uncovered the truth, visited Donna Clara and the twins frequently. He saw in Leo and Leah the proof that kindness always triumphs, and in Donna Clara the personification of unconditional love. In one of these visits, while observing the twins playing near Nevado, he noticed the absence of any shadow of the past in their faces. That was a miracle, a second chance given by life and by the courage of an animal. The story of Leo, Leah, and Nevado continued to inspire millions around the world. It was told in children's books, adapted for plays, and celebrated in documentaries, reminding everyone that compassion can emerge in the most unexpected places, and that true strength lies in the ability to love and protect. Mr. Almeida's name, on the other hand, had faded from collective memory, replaced by the legend of the albino tiger, the true guardian of innocence. His fortune had been used to create foundations for animal protection and support for vulnerable children, transforming his cruelty into a legacy of hope and altruism. In that garden, under the sun that kissed the green grass, Leo and Leah grew, carrying with them not the weight of what had happened to them, but the light of what they had found. They were the living testament that even after the coldest of nights, dawn would always bring with it the promise of a kinder future, where love, family, and human connection were the strongest pillars. The legend of the albino tiger, the guardian angel who defied nature, remained alive, whispered by the winds and etched in hearts, an eternal reminder that compassion resides even in the wildest souls, and that hope, like a beacon, never fades.